Have you had anxiety on Sunday evening because you dread going to work? Or maybe you've had a hard time getting up in the morning for your 7:30 a.m. meeting. Well, if that's the case, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the reason why I decided to become an entrepreneur over engineering. Now, my name is Matthew, and currently right now, I'm still working as a full-time engineer. However, I have started a part-time business. And eventually my goal is that my part-time business will become my full-time business once it replaces my income from my 9 to 5. Now, I know you may be sitting there thinking like, Matthew, you're an engineer. Don't engineers make a lot of money? Why is it that you want to give all of that up to become an entrepreneur? And the reason being is because being an engineer is being an employee, and just because you have a high income, I have found out that doesn't mean that you have job security, and it doesn't mean that it's going to allow for you to get rich. I always had dreams and goals of becoming rich, and I thought that by going to school, getting good grades, getting a degree, and working as an engineer, making it to six figures, I thought I was going to be able to be fine and become rich. But what I've discovered is that I'm still an employee. And just because you earn six figures, just because I earn six figures, doesn't mean that I'm going to be financially free. So in this video today, we're going to be talking about the three differences between an employee and an entrepreneur to give you more context on why I decided to become an entrepreneur. Now, this actually came about when I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in this book, Rich Dad gives an example of someone that works for a corporation, aka an employee, and then he says someone that owns the corporation, so a business owner, entrepreneur. And he said that there is a slight difference between the two of them. So let's say that the person that is a worker, I'm just going to name them worker. And then we have the person over here is owner. Now, both of these people, the owner and the employee, which I'll write off over here on the side, both earn income. Both pay taxes, and both spend money. Now, when it comes to the difference between the two of these, there is a slight difference that has a major impact. And that is the order in which this process happens. Now, both of them start off, step number one, both of them start off with earned income. So earned income. Well, you know what? We'll just say earned money. All right. Now, for step number two is where things get very different. And that is employees or workers pay taxes, whereas a business owner spends money. Number three, the worker spends money and the business owner pays taxes. Now, as I'm reading this book, I'm sitting there thinking like, how is that such a huge difference? But once I did the math, it made so much more sense. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. And the first thing is business owners versus workers are able to have tax benefits. And I'm going to show you why it's important to have tax benefits. Now, the example that we're going to be using, or the example that I'll be using today, is both the worker and the owner earn $100,000. So I'm just going to say 100K. How are those steps going to be a major difference? And here's how they're going to end up being a major difference. So you have $100,000 for the worker. And we said that for the worker, they pay taxes after they earn money. Now, the question is that you're probably asking is, okay, if they're paying taxes, how much in taxes? And if you were thinking that question, that is a very good question to ask. So for right now, we're just going to focus on one type of tax because there's a list of taxes that we all pay, but we're going to focus on the federal taxes. Now, for the federal taxes, if you go on Google and you look it up, and actually I'll put a document down below that has a chart that you can access that will show you the federal taxes across the US, and it will show you that there's a range. So depending on what type of income you have or amount of income you have will depend on how much you pay in taxes. That can range anywhere from 12% all the way up to 25% or more. Now, for a worker, if you're earning $100,000, you're going to be paying around 20 to maybe 24% in taxes. But to keep the math simple, we're just going to say 20%. So what is, and I'll switch the colors. So we have an earned income. We have an earned income of $100,000. Then you're going to pay 20% in taxes. Now, what is 20% of 100? That's going to be 20,000. So you're going to pay $20,000 in taxes. And once you pay that $20,000 in taxes, the amount of money that you have left over to make it to step number 3 is going to be $80,000. Now, I always wondered, why is it that I wasn't necessarily having as much money at the end of every month that I wanted to? And this is the reason why. And you may also be thinking like, well, I earn $100,000 per year, but it seems like I don't make enough money. And the problem is you do make enough money. However, you're living on a salary of $100,000 a year when you're truly making less than that, which in this case is $80,000 per year. So with you being a worker, you have very little to no tax benefits. And the reason why I say very little is because there are some instances where you can have tax benefits without being an entrepreneur. However, they are very, very little. Some people say that you get tax benefits on your house. Some people say that there are other ways to get tax benefits, such as putting money into a 401k or maybe a health savings plan. But the reality of it is you can literally probably count on both of your hands how many tax advantages you are able to get as an employee. And this is the reason why many people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're living as if they're earning $100,000, but they're really only earning $80,000, or it may be less depending on what your salary is and where you are currently living. And that's just with the federal taxes. So when you get to this point, this is how much money you have left to spend. So if you are on a salary of $100,000 per year, you're really making about $80,000 if you are getting taxed at 20%. It could be more, it could be a little bit less. But on average, you're going to be earning $80,000 per year, which means that you are $20,000 out of the hole. Now, I already know what you may be thinking. Well, Matthew, I get a tax refund. Okay, well, think about it. You go throughout the whole entire year overpaying in taxes to hope that you get a tax refund the next year from the previous year, and that ends up putting you behind. So now when we go over to the owner side, the owner makes the same $100,000. All right. But instead of paying taxes first, what does the owner get to do? The owner gets to spend the money first. So what do they spend it on? They have tax write-offs such as paying employees, paying for health plans, buying equipment, getting coaching. They have a lot of different things. And let's say that in total, what if you were a business owner, let's say that this business owner spends $50,000. They spend $50,000. Now remember over here, we got taxed 20%. The owner spent $50,000, which means that they are going to have $50,000 left, correct? But we have to move on to the next step. The next step is they have to pay taxes, all right? These steps are for both sides. It's just the order of these two which are different. So now the business owner has to pay taxes. But the beauty of being an entrepreneur, the beauty of being a business owner is the fact that you went and you spent this money, you have $50,000 left, you're not getting taxed on $100,000. Guess what you're getting taxed on? You're getting taxed on this $50,000. So because you're getting taxed on this $50,000, let's just say that that's 12% taxes. Well, if that's 12% taxes, this is going to be $7,000 that you have to pay in taxes, which leaves you with $43,000 left. And I will change that to a green marker, which leaves you with $43,000 left. Now, is it true that you have $43,000? Technically, yes. But if you take this $43,000 and you add it to this $50,000, technically you have $93,000 and you only paid $7,000 in taxes. Now, this is why I said that the first step is workers pay taxes. You earn income, both earn $100,000. Both, one's going to pay taxes after they earn it, the other one is going to spend, and then they're going to pay taxes. Just by having this difference, they were able to save a lot more money. Matter of fact, that's $23,000 that they were able to save by being able to spend money first. And this is the power of having a business and being a business owner. Now, what many people think is, well, you have to go and you have to be an Elon Musk or you have to be a Jeff Bezos. And the reality of it is, no, you don't. You can start a home-based business, and by having a home-based business, that allows for you to do what? Have tax write-offs. So when you earn money, you are able to write that off when you go and spend it on supplies for your business. You have an office. You're able to spend money to enhance your office, of course, within reason. Now, the next thing that we have is you have a fixed income. All right. So the first thing is a business owner has tax benefits. You're able to lower the amount of taxes you pay. Now, the second thing is you have a fixed income. Now, how is it that you have a fixed income when you are a worker? Well, I remember when or even now working, but at my first job, I was working hard. I was like, hey, what do I have to do to be able to get a raise? And they said, well, you just need to show us that you are able to handle a good amount of work and we'll give you a pay raise. So what did I start doing? I started taking on more work, and more work. And what ended up happening is people were surpassing me that were doing less work than me. Why? Because they were playing politics. And because they were playing politics, now I'm sitting here on the same salary, but they're going up. And really, it kind of frustrated me because I was fixing some of the things that they were messing up, yet they were still getting more money than I was. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter how hard you work on your job. As much as people want to say and believe that, oh, if I just work hard, I'm going to be able to get this raise. The majority of the time, you're going to work harder and you're only going to see somewhere between maybe like 2.5% to maybe 5% in a raise. But then guess what? What many people don't think about is the fact that even if you saw a 5% increase in your salary, guess what? Your salary has increased, so guess what's going to increase? The amount that you're going to pay in taxes. Whereas when you have a business, let's say that you earned $100,000 in a year, but then you increased your revenue to now you're earning $150,000 per year. Well, guess what? Now what you are doing is you have more money available to spend to expand your business. Maybe you're spending it on marketing. Maybe you're spending it on mentorship. Maybe you're spending it on supplies or different things like that. And now because you're using these tax write-offs, you're going to be able to deduct even more, which is going to allow for you to determine how much you are able to pay in taxes. Also, with you increasing your income, maybe you are just helping more clients. You're not going to be fixed. You may say, hey, look, I earned $100,000 last year. I want to be able to earn $250,000. Well, what do? You go out, you solve more people's problems, you serve more people, and now you're going to be able to increase your income. So you potentially have an unlimited income depending on how far it is that you want to scale your business revenue. Now, the last thing is, even after doing all that work, barely getting this 2%, 2.5% to 5% raise, then you're getting taxed more, there is a potential that you can be fired. Now, I know that we go throughout life and people talk about having job security, but the truth of the matter is there is no job security. Like earlier this year in 2025, there were people that were working for Amazon, about 11,000 to 14,000 people that just got laid off. They went to work, they didn't have a job. They didn't have a notice or anything. So their whole life completely changed. Then before then, there was a layoff and people were getting ready to retire and they weren't able to get their retirement package. So you really have to start thinking about how secure is your job. And the reality of it is, if you are employed by somebody, they can come to work or you can go to work and they can fire you on the spot for no reason and you have no job. However, when you are a business owner, you are in control of whether or not you get fired or not. And really, it's not about you getting fired. It's more so about if you want to continue to carry on with the business or if you don't. So that's a decision that you are able to make because you are in control. Now, those are basically the three differences between an employee and a business owner. The first thing is taxes. Taxes. Employees pay so much in taxes. And make sure you click the link down below to see this chart, and I'm gonna have a list of the different taxes that you pay. And not all states have the same taxes. Like for instance, some states don't have income taxes and some states may have little to no sales tax. It just depends. But it really depends on where you are. And when you go and you see how much you're paying in taxes, you will see how much of this money is actually really depleting every single month and every single week. Then you have the business owner side where you're able to have tax benefits, which is going to really help you out in the long run. The next thing is you can potentially have a higher income, an unlimited income, where you can go and be working part-time, earning $1 million per year. And honestly, that's what one of my goals is to be able to work part-time and earn millions of dollars per year. And it's just about how many people are you able to serve. You can increase your income at any time, but if you're an employee, this is what you're stuck with. You're waiting around year after year. You're possibly getting 2.5 to 5% increase in your salary, and because that's going to happen year after year, and with inflation going up, taxes going up, the value of the dollar going down, you are really in for a world of hurt if you are relying only on your job as your source of income. And the last thing is you can be fired at any time. At any given moment in time, you could go to work and they could say, hey, thanks for the service here, but we no longer need your help, or we no longer need your services, or you no longer work here. And that's really a danger. Whereas if you start your own business, especially a home-based business, not only will you be able to have tax deductions, but you can also eventually do what I'm working on, which is having enough revenue come in from my part-time home-based business to then replacing my full-time income that allows for me to be able to have the security of leaving my job. So I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the page for more content about financial literacy, wealth creation, and how you can get started with investing and making sure that you are securing your future.